For those of you who are new here, you might not be familiar with what MRA Siswa is. And on behalf of the organization, I would like to sincerely thank all of you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. So before we start, allow me to briefly introduce what Malaysian Relief Agency is and what MRA Siswa is. So basically, just to brief it up, MRA Siswa is like the student-led wing of the Malaysian Relief Agency. And what we do is that we aim to cultivate the spirit of service among Malaysians that are studying locally and abroad. So if you've heard about Malaysian Relief Agency, right, they're basically like an NGO that helps to serve for underprivileged groups. So we create these projects and we do these fundings to help these category of people. So Norma Siswa is one of the projects initiated by the Culture Department in MRA Siswa itself. And so the webinar series, what we aim to do, the end product of it is that we want to discuss various cultural elements among Malaysians. And for today's episode, we have a very, very special guest speaker today, and it's someone that I look up to personally, and I'm sure that everyone here feels the same way. He's a very, very well-respected individual that has contributed a lot to the country. And I think everyone looks up to him as a leader as well. And I think at home, when we're watching TV, right, my parents would always say, like, do you think you would be at that stage to be like him? And I always like shake my head. So I hope you guys are just as nervous and excited as I am, because I am truly, truly honored to have someone with such outstanding career excellence like our guest speaker today. So without further ado, let us welcome Yang Berhormat Syed Saddiq. All right, YB, are you ready to take the turn and warmly introduce yourself to all of us here?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to our session today. To be honest, I don't want to give a long lecture. I love to engage in a lot more Q&A. So I'm looking forward to hear from all of you.
All right, thank you, YB. So before we begin into the set of questions that we have prepared, the general question here is, can you tell us about your journey when you were an undergraduate student, when you were a high school student? You were very active in debate tournaments and all that. Do you think those experiences have shaped the person you are today?
Definitely. I mean, when I'm asked what are the biggest life-changing decisions which I've made, I often link it back to two moments. The first is when I decided to join the Royal Military College. I think that really straightened me up, made me a disciplined person. It taught me a lot about life. I started to focus a lot more on my passion. So Royal Military College changed me a lot. But what RMC also introduced me to, which links to the second life-changing decision, is to it made me join debating. And debating played a very big part in shaping my life when I was in university, whether it's through Asasi or when I was in Gombak campus, IIUM. I remember spending a substantial portion of my time pursuing my passion, which is in debating and public speaking. And I ended up becoming one of the youngest part-time lecturer in IIUM. When I was in my second year, I was already lecturing students who were, 7, 8 years older than me. I was also given the opportunity to teach and train in more than 25 countries. Obviously, I was a career debater. I represented Malaysia at many international championships and were able to break many records for my beloved country. So debating definitely shaped who I am today. It taught me that critical thinking is very important. It taught me that di mana ada kemahuan, di situ ada jalan. When there's a will, there's a way. Because when I first started, I could barely speak in English, and my general knowledge was very weak. But in the end, it's all about perseverance, diligence, hard work, and really pushing the limits. And when we're focused on something, really the sky is the limit. And debating taught me that. Debating also taught me that we should not live in our own cocoons. Our lives are largely intertwined and interconnected to one another. That when we see a family succeeds, it brings happiness to us. And when we see someone gets hurt, it brings hurt to us as well, because our lives are largely interconnected to one another. We are a society, we are a collective, and we're not just an individual living on a random isolated island. And with that in mind, debating inspired me to become a policy maker as well, to make substantial changes in policy making in Malaysia, so that what I debate in the confinement of a debate room doesn't get stuck there and doesn't end there, but I also bring that level of idealism and policy making out of that debate room and into the parliament. My life in university was very interesting. I spent a lot of time pursuing my passion. That's not an excuse for me not to excel in my academics. I believe I graduated with a decent CGPA while allowing me to pursue my passion, allowing me to become independent as I'm able to sustain my family, not be reliant on them financially because my family is not well off. So my university life was a lot more of learning new things and keep on learning as many things as possible. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, YB, for that insightful explanation. I think back when I was still active in the debating scene itself, I've always told myself, like, oh, I want to be like how eloquent of a speaker you are. What kind of tips do you have for undergraduates that are interested in venturing into the debating scene? Because a lot of my friends or peers as well, they want to get into debating, but they're very scared of like voicing out their opinions and they don't know how to have that kind of knowledge.
I mean, there's no shortcut, but it's good to know where you start from. For me, I remember my first debate experience was when I was 16 years old, and I was merely the reserve for RMC's team at Zone Tengah, HKSBP, which is the preliminary rounds to get into the Prime Minister's Cup. I was representing RMC as the reserve speaker. So I didn't expect to debate. I was merely, people call me tortoise. They call me tortoise because masa tu badan kecil, very small body frame, but I was carrying a lot of books and files for my seniors. I was not expected to speak, but I was merely expected to bring all the files and fact books for them wherever they went. Suddenly, during one of the rounds, my senior said, "Hey, enough lah, Saddiq, you go debate this round." I was super scared. I wasn't ready. I had no confidence in myself. I never debated before. And I remember we went up against STS, Sekolah Tun Fatimah, which was one of the best debating schools. And it was an all-boys military school, this macho kind of mindset. And then you're going up against all the very strong ladies from STF. And when I spoke, I remember I spoke less than 1 minute. Even though you're allocated 7 minutes, I spoke less than 1 minute. I was shivering throughout my speech. I didn't know what I was talking about, to be honest. I was not making any sense whatsoever, especially, at that point in time, we were not exposed to a lot of women because we were stuck in a military college. And then finally, you see three beautiful, smart women being right and you are wrong. So that was a painful memory, but one which I learned a lot because I knew at that moment I was at rock bottom. I mean, I cannot go any lower than that. Being humiliated by STF, and then me wanting to impress them, but in the end, failing to even impress myself, but getting humiliated because they beat me like no one else has. But that incentivized me to become a much better person, and I knew what I had to improve on. I knew I had to improve my English. I knew I had to improve my public speaking skills. I knew I had to improve my general knowledge in order for me to succeed. And I worked really hard from there onward. When I was in RMC, despite the fact that we didn't have a lot of coaches, but we had mentors, debaters from UKM or seniors who came over illegally to enter RMC to train us. I kid you not, because it was illegal for them to train us. So they sludoped themselves into RMC. Now I can say it because hopefully I won't get them into trouble. But they entered and then they mentored me, they coached me. I remember I dah panjat pagar at that point in time during weekends to go to UKM illegally so that they can train me there. So I knew that my peers were training once a week. And I knew if they were training once a week, they were already good. I had to train minimum of 5 times a week. After prep hours, kita kat sekolah berasma penuh, you finish prep time at about 10 p.m. I don't go to sleep. After 10 p.m., immediately I go to the English room, start reading up materials, reading books, watching debate speeches online through my illegally smuggled laptop into RMC so that I can learn as much as possible from YouTube. So I really learned a lot there. So what I like to share, I mean, if it's how to debate, it will take a longer time, but really you can start at the bottom of the debate league, but if you are passionate, focused, you will succeed. And I've personally witnessed many of the most successful debaters are not the best in high school. Often they are in the top 50, top 100 at times, so far away that you don't even notice them. But when they put their mind to it, they will climb up meteorically. I've seen debaters from UITM Shah Alam, debaters from MMU, who really started out of nowhere. In the high school debate scene, they were nowhere, but then they climbed up really well. And in the end, they were able to break not just Malaysia's record, but Asia's record and be the top 10 in the world. So my message is, when there's a will, there is a way. If they work hard, we work hardest. If we know that we are far behind, we think out of the box, we think critically to achieve that same conventional outcome. However, we work unconventionally to achieve that outcome. So yeah, that's my advice.
All right, thank you, Ivy. I agree with you. So when we're talking about debate, right, we can't run away from the fact that as a debater, you would have to, master the skills of communication and also critical thinking skills. But communication and critical thinking skills, they're both very dependent on the privilege that people receive at a young age. So, for example, Kumon classes. How do we level the playing field for those who do not have access to such privilege?
As I mentioned, in the end, it's all about our willpower and diligence. We have to be very honest in assessing ourselves. For example, what I did, I come from a working class family. My mom was a teacher. My father was a laborer who commuted from Johor to Singapore a lot. So I didn't have a lot of access to additional tuition classes, except if it's with my mom. And I went through a national education curriculum. I didn't go to any private schools. So I didn't go to all this Kumon. I remember going to Tadika Nuri, where I was ridiculously bad. I was a delinquent when I was a kid. I remember I was so bad to the point that my ustazah, in Johor, you have to go through religious schools after national school. I was so bad to the point that my ustazah once predicted that I'll be a drug addict, because I used to be so naughty. And to be fair, I don't blame my ustazah because I was really naughty and I was a genuine delinquent there. Ponteng sekolah, pergi cyber cafe, during weekends, tell my mom that I want to sleep at my neighbor's house. My neighbors will tell their parents that they want to sleep at my house. In the end, we both lie towards our parents to meet halfway and then walk to the cyber cafe, which is 45 minutes away, late night, and then play cyber cafe from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. That 10 ringgit for 10 hours special deal. It was really bad. But I knew that I was so far behind in comparison to my peers. And I knew that when I was debating for RMC, I remember it was the HELP inter-school debate, and I lost all the rounds, 3-3 kalah. And one of the best teams then was this team called KGV from Negeri Sembilan. I still remember it's Arvin, Rafiq, and Quresh. They were the smartest, they were the brightest. They spoke remarkably well, and their general knowledge is impeccable. But I remember when I watched them, I was so inspired. But at the same time, that inspiration didn't blind me into blind inspiration, but instead it really helped ignite that burning desire to be better than them. So I knew I was so far ahead. I had about 2 months to train, because after the HELP inter-school, there was the IRUM Inter-School Debate Championship. And during my time, that was the debate championship for high school students. So I had 2 months, and I knew that they will be participating in this debate championship. So in that 2 months' time, every day, every night, I trained with my team. I watched so many debate videos to the point that I could memorize speeches from Oxford and Cambridge debaters, because I knew that if I only watch debate speeches of among my peers, I will not go that far, because at best I'll be as good as them. But when I know I'm like years behind them, I must watch even better debaters debate, so that even though I don't get to become as good as those from Oxford and Cambridge, I'll get close, and therefore making me the best in Malaysia. And I was training so hard. If they train once a week, I will train every day and every night. If they have access to the best debate trainers, I will find a way to get, my debate mentors in illegally. And if I can't get them in, I'll get my laptop in and I'll watch the best debaters across the world debate online, and I learn from them. And that taught me really a lot. So again, it's having an honest assessment of where we are at and where we want to reach, have a plan on how we want to reach there. And for me, it was very structured. I knew I had to watch 2 or 3 debate videos in a day. I had to prep 2 or 3 motions a day. I had to read up a lot more materials. I had to read newspapers every day, so that I make it a habit and a norm, so that in the future, until today, I still do it because I feel that it's so normal and that knowledge is a part of me, and I enjoy reading. So it really starts there. And that honest assessment with a plan will get you far.
All right. Thank you, YB. This reminds me of the days when I was back in high school. I was just starting to debate, and every day I'd go on YouTube. I'd search for debating videos. And back then, this one famous video of debating was involving Razak Fazail, if you're familiar with Razak.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's a great
And I
guy.
really looked up to him. Okay, so when we talk about debating, right, you have a very a good strategy of like responding to questions very, very fast. Do you have any specific tips on how people can articulate their sentences appropriately and it can make sense? You know, for undergraduates, I think we struggle with trying to make ourselves make sense.
To be honest, I mean, people say common sense is common sense, but it's not that easy. It doesn't just come to you. It's also based on your surrounding, your upbringing. So my recommendation is, again, it's not easy way out to gain this critical thinking skill set. But it always starts with reading, watching as many speakers who you may disagree with, but listening to them speak and then finding ways to disagree with them through facts and figures. Then you slowly evolve from just reading and watching, but to engaging with them intellectually. For example, when I watch a video today of a politician speaking, a corporate leader speaking, I won't just listen and follow blindly. I'll say, oh, but what? I'll keep on questioning. It's a critical thinking process. Oh, this person said this. Why is it so? Why can't this person do this? Why is this method better? What about this alternative method? However, if we do this, what's the balance? How do we make things better? So I questioning. Do not be a blind follower, blind reader, and blind watcher. Be a critical thinker. Because once you embody that in your everyday process, as you listen to your parents speak, as you listen to your friends speak, your lecturers speak, you have this critical thinking mindset. That's where you improve your ability to capture common sense, your ability to become a global citizen, to understand things better. So it's really improving your day-to-day process of thinking, but it must start now. It cannot be, 1 month before suddenly you activate it. It's a daily occurrence which you practice.
All right, thank you, IB. I think what I can sum out from what you have said is that when you listen to someone's opinion, right, it's important for you to not just take it as a whole. It's important for you to have and process your own thoughts as well. So moving on to the communication kind of skills, right? When you communicate with people, you are bound to have miscommunication and conflicts. And as a leader, how do you deal with such situations?
First is to acknowledge that miscommunication is human, that you can't expect to be perfect all the time, but when you do slip up, be humble and apologize. You don't have to be arrogant and ignorant. I mean, human beings are very forgiving. Obviously, you have to take the hit and criticism and accept it as it comes, but acknowledge that miscommunication is common. And when you acknowledge it, that you yourself are human and can make mistakes, you'll tend to be more forgiving when others miscommunicate and make mistakes as well. So it's a two-way road, not just a one-way road. So I think it's good to start there. Second point is, usually in terms you can never run away from making mistakes, but you can try your best to reduce it, right? So that's where I think for me, to ensure that there's less miscommunication, I'll try my best to listen a lot more, to understand where they are coming from, and understand what are their pain points, what are the middle ground which we can reach, what are their points of intolerance where they will not compromise, and then that's where I'll respond. So listening, respond, instead of just blabbering things out and then offending the person, and only then realizing, oh my God, I actually offended this person when it's too late. So miscommunication can be avoided easily through listening a lot more. And at times, listening is a much valuable skill set than speaking, because
All right.
listening is a skill.
Yeah, YB. I think communication is a two-way street. It's a give and take. You listen and you respond. Thank you, YB. So moving on to the next question. Do you think mastering a third language like Mandarin or other languages is very important in the current situation in a workplace for undergraduates, or do you think it's something like an additional talent that they can pursue?
I believe it's very important. Ask me, um, especially post-pandemic, there will be um, this this burst of energy for human beings to connect with one another, because we've been imprisoned for about 2 years in our respective homes, offices, and we're not able to communicate as much physically with one another. So post-pandemic, you'll see everyone wanting to go out, you'll see everyone wanting to travel, you'll see everyone wanting to know one another a lot more, and building that interpersonal bridge with one another. Language will play a very big role, because it's not the same when you communicate online or with a translator. When you are a multilingual speaker, it's much easier for you to emote or to communicate with emotions, to build that emotional bridge with one another, to build that relationship of trust with one another. So I'm of the belief that we should train young Malaysians, not just on a university level, but as young as Saddiq, to master at least 3 languages. And I myself am in that continuous journey of learning. Right? I'm trying my best to learn Mandarin, Cantonese, some words in Tamil. Not easy, but I want to learn. I believe that I want to be a student of life. Um, because that allows me to understand my constituents better, that allows me to communicate with them better. In no way does that mean just because I speak in English and Mandarin, suddenly that makes me less of a Malay or less of a Malaysian. In reality, that makes me more of a Malay and a Malaysian. If you look at Malay history, I mean, the Malay archipelago was one which is based on international trade. Malacca was one of the international hubs, and that's why a lot of foreign traders will end up in Malacca to trade spices, to trade raw materials, gold, silver, because of our ability to adapt to the globalized community. But as time passes by, we forget about that. We keep on fetishizing over a particular narrowed belief till a point that we lose out to our competitors. Look where Singapore is at now. I mean, they've gone far, far ahead. Countries like Vietnam, which previously we said, oh, they only speak their language. Now they spend billions of ringgit to equip their young graduates to be a trilingual speaker, right? So that they can communicate Mandarin, so that they can do immense trade with China, English, that they can do trade with Europe and United States. We keep on saying Korea and Japan um, will fetishize over their language and will not talk about different languages as a matter of pride. But we see that changing quickly. Korea as a country, South Korea as a country, is a country where they invest the most in extra classes to learn different languages. That's why you see they pay English teachers and lecturers so much in South Korea, because they value it so much today. And you see the big chaebols. Chaebols are like the multi-billion-dollar companies now making it mandatory for their employees to learn English. You look at Rakuten, the multi-billion-dollar company in Japan, which has provided training grants for their employees to learn English. So just to show that our competitors are adapting, while my fear, we are going narrower and narrower. So being bilingual, bilingual is a minimum, trilingual is a must. And we must keep on pushing the boundaries to learn new knowledge, so that in the end, we equip our graduates so that they are prepared to take on the world.
Very, very insightful, YB. Thank you. There is this mindset going around among the undergraduates that they think that, oh, leadership skills are not really that necessary. They're not important because at the end of the day, there is this quote that says, not everyone is suited to be a leader. What do you think of this personally?
Pardon, sorry, can you repeat the question?
The question is, there are undergraduates that regard leadership skills as not important because they feel like, oh, not everyone is suited to be a leader. So what do you think personally of this?
Everyone is a leader in their own respective ways. Don't think a leader only as a person who will govern a country or to lead a company. Everyone is a leader, and there will be moments where we are forced into that leadership role, and we have to play it up, whether it's about leading our family out of hardship, whether it's about leading our classmates to get a better CGPA, whether it's about helping our parents cope through immense stress and pressure. All of us will be leaders in our own respective ways. And if we are unprepared, if we are ill prepared, then when the moment comes, we will fail to rise to the occasion, and someone else will, and someone else will fill up that vacuum and will take up the opportunity, and you will be behind, and the person will progress ahead. So it is important. That's why to me, one of the most important skill sets for Malaysians to have is that critical thinking mindset. You know, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to ask, the so quote unquote stupid questions. It's better to ask the stupid questions than for you to just keep quiet and internalize it. Because that stupid question today, even though you will be ridiculed there, but you yourself will feel a lot more confident to ask more questions in the future. And you may start as stupid, like how I was remarkably stupid before, and I'm not afraid to say that, but I improve. Then you just remaining quiet, idle, and silent, and others around you improve. Others around you seize the opportunity to ask questions. Others around you seize the opportunity to become leaders. Others around you seize the opportunities to value add and to give new suggestions to the company or to the NGO or to your classmates. Then you will lose out. Life is all about opportunities which come when you least expect it, and that's something which I've learned. I mean, because I don't come from a privileged family. I mean, I wouldn't be able to join politics if I had not had the courage to write about many of the reforms which I want to see in Malaysia. Yes, that meant I would lose my job, and I did lose my job as a lecturer, researcher, officer, to a minister. But that opened up new doors of opportunities for me. I'm able to meet up for the very first time to Dr. Mahathir, to meet up Tan Sri Muhyiddin, to meet up with Dato' Sri Anwar, and then from there onward learn, right? Yes, there will be mistakes, and I'm not free for making mistakes, but I learn. So everyone will be a leader in your own respective way, and everyone will be presented with opportunities which may be daunting there, but if you don't seize it, someone else will seize it. We are young, we are the generation of disruptors, we can afford to make mistakes. But what will eat you inside internally is that when an opportunity comes, you're so afraid to seize it because of the potentiality of making a mistake. But maybe 5-10 years down the road, you'll think back, oh God, I should have done that. Do not make that mistake.
All right. Thank you, YB. YB, you were elected as a member of parliament at a quite young age, I'd say. How do you carry the responsibility given to you by people? I mean, yeah, even now, until now, you have carried those responsibilities very, very well. Helping underprivileged groups to get laptops, tablets. I think it's very, very honorable. How do you carry that kind of responsibility?
I love serving, and my dream has always been to be a public servant. That's why I've always wanted to be a teacher or lecturer, because I come from a family of teachers and lecturers. Mom is a teacher, sister is a teacher, uncles, aunties, teachers and lecturers. And even before I joined politics, I was an educator. So I love teaching. So public service is tied to that, right? Because when you are a teacher, it's less about you, but more about the knowledge which you can impart to others, make their lives better. And hopefully, when their lives are better, they will improve the lives of many others, and it becomes a multiplier effect. So when I joined politics, I have a very clear goal. I want to serve. I want to make the lives of others better. I want to ensure that Malaysia will be a regional superpower, and we will be able to improve the lives of middle-class, hardworking Malaysians. And that's always been my focus and my dream. So when I was elected, I was given that opportunity. So now in this context, that's why in the minimal time which I had, less than 2 years being in government, and usually, I mean, having less than 2 years, really you can't do much. It's very hard to bring legislative changes. I was able to amend the constitution 3 times, adding 7.8 million people to become legitimate Malaysian voters, therefore tilting the power back in the hands of young people, paid internship, got through a 6.5 billion job stimulus package, which will create 300,000 jobs for young people. And then now, even in opposition, while allocations have been taken away, if you're a member of government, you get about 5 million ringgit. But in opposition, you get 0 to 300,000. Even the announcement made yesterday, until today, we still don't know what opposition will get. But instead of giving up, you don't. Again, we are young, we innovate. They take away your allocations, you don't just give up. No, instead, you find other ways. That's why I did the botak challenge, and then I taught tuition to fundraise. I sold my items, many things. And now, despite being in opposition, I don't think there's ever been an opposition member which has fundraised in less than 6 months more than 1 million ringgit for their constituents. And I am able to do it because of the people's support, because of the service which I owe, and I'm eternally indebted to Malaysians because they made it possible. So in the end, it's really about service, because when I'm under immense stress, people say, oh, how, back then last year you were part of government, you were minister, youngest minister, you had everything going for you, you were the youth chief of a party, blah blah blah. But then you picked the more difficult road, you no longer wanted to become a minister, you fought your party, got expelled, now you're in opposition, you lost everything. I don't think I lost everything. To be honest, if I was in government today, my conscience will not be clear. I mean, if really politics is about maintaining your post as a minister, your allocations, then politics really is futile. Politics is not about money and should never be about money and power. It should be about values, it should be about principles. And now in opposition, despite all of that, and immense stress, when I go down to service my constituents, see them and what I'm able to do to change their lives. For example, when I see Adik Muhammad, whose mother is in prison and whose father left him at a young age, and now who's alone, living with a grandmother who's very frail, and when I met up the grandmother was praying so that she dies early, so that her hardship will be taken away, and that made me cry. And I knew I had to help Adik Muhammad. That's not his real name. I can't disclose his real name because he's a minor. But then I didn't give up. I knew government will not help me. I fundraised, right? And I did multiple fundraising, and in less than 3 days, I raised more than 20,000 ringgit for him, and I'm able to sustain his immediate education need. Right, we're going to put him in a good boarding school, and then after that, invest 10,000 ringgit in his tertiary education fund, so that when he is 18 years old, he can use it for university, TVET, polytechnic, what have you. So when I do things like this, it makes me, it turbocharges me. So you can be under immense stress, but small things like this really makes my day.
Honestly, YB, what you have done for the past years is very, very inspiring to people. I feel like you have initiated this movement among undergraduates, or the youth in Malaysia itself, to be just as powerful as you. The things that you have done, what you have contributed to the country, to the nation, it's very, very inspiring. And I think it's very, very it's nice to have such leader in Malaysia itself. So even when you are so loved by a lot of people, right, there will still be people that speak negatively about you, people who criticize you. So when it comes to situations like this, how do you deal with criticism of those who speak very, very negatively about you?
No one, and when I say no one, I mean it, no one who has been given public confidence, whether is in a capacity as a politician, member of parliament, minister, civil servant, should be free of public scrutiny and criticism. If anything, the more you climb up the ladder, the more power is in your hands, the more you should be scrutinized and criticized. And that's the beauty of a democracy. The last thing which you want is to have an emperor which is free from criticism and governing a country without a mandate. So while there are a lot who not just criticize, hurl personal attacks, I take it with an open mind. I shouldn't take it personally, because if there is anger, the anger must come from somewhere. I may have wronged this person, I may not have served this person well, and I have a lot to learn, right? And obviously you have to find a way to balance it out. There will be those who will give very constructive criticisms, there will be those who will just hurl personal insults. But it doesn't mean you just ignore them, right? You understand where they're coming from and then move forward. Don't be held back so much to the point that you get so bogged down, stressed up, that you can't do work. Understand where the criticism is coming from and move forward. Learn, and continue serving. And I think I've normalized criticism, because if I don't, then I'll be arrogant, or worse, I'll be ignorant. I'll think that I'm always right. I'll only surround myself with those who agree, yes men, and I will never be able to get the right solutions, suggestions to move forward. That's why I remember when I was in government, um, um, there was this lecturer who wrote a false article, saying that PH did ABCD, right? And he was an academician. And there were calls within the education department to take action against him. I defended him in cabinet, despite the fact that this person is an avid supporter of PAS, the Islamic Party, and also wrote things which were categorically wrong. But I said, if it is wrong, we engage with this lecturer with facts and figures. We rebut him. We don't punish him. We don't punish his family just because we disagree with his political viewpoints. The days of political suppression is over. And I remember when there were student leaders who were associated to UMNO, the UMNO Siswa, and there were claims that they couldn't join UMNO General Assembly because they are students. I defended them. I said, if there are any case of any university wants to take action against them, I will defend them. That is their right to associate to a political party and to disagree with me as a politician. It's perfectly legitimate. That's the beauty of a democracy. You don't have blind followers and believers. You remain professional. You agree to disagree, and you engage with the person with facts and figures. You don't character assassinate the person. You don't attack the person personally. You don't punish the person by removing him from university. That's unjust, uncalled, and undemocratic. Because if I, as a student then, as a student leader, and as a lecturer could be punished, I lost my job, my students who I trained were not allowed to represent the university, my parents, my mom, who was a civil servant, was punished because she had a son who was very vocal, and I detested and condemned that system. Suddenly, when I'm in government, I remain silent. That's wrong. So I think that change is important, and that change in mindset is very important. And we learn as time passes by, we improve and value add as we go. And no one should be free from scrutiny and criticism.
All right. Thank you, YB. When it comes to leadership skills, like you mentioned earlier, everyone is a leader, and I think generally everyone is born a leader. So what do you think are the best ways for undergraduates to enhance their leadership skills while they're still being a student?
Find responsibilities and take it up. When I say find responsibilities, find new responsibilities and challenges. Don't think of responsibilities like, or starting a new political, no, not like humongous. Baby steps, like, you know that there's someone in your family who's suffering from a problem. Instead of allowing your parents to resolve it, why don't you try to problem solve? If you know that there is a neighbor who is in need, who needs food aid, instead of relying on someone else or a government agency, you try to help him or her. If you know of a friend who's suffering from mental depression, instead of just doing nothing, listen to him or her. A leader is not, you're not born to be a leader. It's something which you learn. It's when opportunities come your way or challenges come your way, you seize the opportunity, and you do something. So I think that's the bare minimum. So try. I mean, in the end, it is about service, and service will make you learn and will make you a better person, not just a leader, but a better person. And it's really self-fulfilling. You may think that it's stressful now, but as you do it, you'll get this moment of like, wow, I can actually do something to change someone's life. And that is more rewarding than having big houses and a lot of cars. That's something which to me is more rewarding than anything else. So find that opportunity, seize it, work your way, and make sure that you're able to impact the lives of others, like how you want others to impact your lives.
All right. Thank you, YB. I think that wraps up the interview questions for today. Since we have 15 minutes left, I'd like to allocate this time for more Q&As from the participants today. So the question here is, what are common misconceptions about being a leader? Is leadership always about the ability to influence other people, or leadership is about having authority?
I think it is about influencing other people. Um, at times, authority is important, but if your default uh, uh, option is to use force, then you are in the wrong profession, right? A leader, especially in Malaysia, often we are a democracy. We cannot simply force our way through. Obviously, you need to show leadership, but leadership comes with persuasion of ideas, making people join us because they want to, not because they are forced to, not because they are paid to do so, but because they believe in your ideals and ideas. Because force and coercion is not long lasting, but ideas lead to movements, and movements lead to long lasting change. Coercion is very short, it's temporary, and immediately when the coercive nature ends, there will be a rebellion against you. So it's better to persuade them to believe in your ideals, to join you because they believe in you instead of the coercion behind it. So it takes a longer time, but it's more long lasting.
All right, thank you, YB. The next question is, as a leader, what is the most challenging thing in addressing the COVID-19 in overcoming the guaranteed human rights of the people? And do you think the current government's action is one of the effective ways or not?
Sorry, can you repeat again? I missed the human rights. What?
So the question is, as a leader, what is the most challenging thing in addressing the issue of COVID-19 in overcoming the guaranteed human rights of the people?
If we look from a human rights perspective, it's multi-sectoral. One from the top of my mind, as we talk about gaining herd immunity and reaching that 80% vaccination rate, it also requires for us to deal with a very serious issue, which is on legal and illegal workers or migrants in Malaysia. It's unpopular. It's an unpopular issue to deal with, but if we merely hide it under the rug, we'll never be able to reach herd immunity, because the reality is about 3 million registered foreign workers, and there are about 3 million undocumented foreign workers. So that makes about 6 million. Question is, what do you do on this issue? Because it is also their right to be vaccinated, and it is our right to be safe. Therefore, having the majority of those around us to be vaccinated. But while we talk about that, there is an issue of that cultural pushback or backlash. This person is a foreign worker, it's not a Malaysian. Why do we care about him or her? Forget her. Yeah, you can say this, but in the end, it will come to bite you back and hunt you back when cases are always in the thousands, because we don't inoculate or vaccinate those around us. There's also the issue of balancing power and service. And that's where we see, that balance to me has been destroyed by this government. To cling on to power, they declared the state of emergency, they closed down parliament indefinitely, and in the end, there's no checks and balance, there's no public scrutiny. It's hard to hold them to account. If I'm in parliament, it's very different than me making a video on TikTok, but then me speaking in parliament. In parliament, I can demand for answers, and the answers which they give will be recorded and publicized. But now I can shout my lungs out, but they can just ignore me. Or they can lie, because in parliament, if you lie, it will be recorded in the annals of history forever, right? It will be scripted in the parliament handset. So, balancing power during times of pandemic is very important. You need to take action, and you must show decisive leadership. At the same time, you also need to ensure that you don't abuse power to cling on and consolidate to power. So I think these are the two issues which I see relevant in Malaysia today.
All right, thank you, YB. As an undergraduate, as university students, what is the best way for them to voice out their opinions? Because in some cases, university tends to deprive their voices, and they don't allow, university students to practice their rights. So what do you think of this personally?
If we do that, we are causing the slow decline of Malaysia. See, universities are meant to be the centers of knowledge and virtue. Universities are meant to be the centers of critical thinking. If universities are meant to merely be factories of employees, sure, you can just teach them skill sets and then forget that critical thinking element, the outspokenness, the ability to disagree intellectually. If anything, we should be rewarding our students who challenge existing norms and ideas. Let them challenge it and address their concerns intellectually, agree to disagree, have as many intellectual debates, not having speakers' corners in universities, but in the end, limiting the topics at the speaker's corner. Or you cannot talk about GST, or you cannot talk about political reforms, or you cannot talk about governments and opposition. If anything, we should reward and incentivize them. I mean, in the UK, I mean, look at Oxford and Cambridge. Every week they have meaningful debates at their unions, which will be televised, and they invite ministers, CEOs, chairmen, the best of lecturers to debate on pressing issues. But in Malaysia, oh, tak boleh, tebu, tak boleh. Even though these issues are important and will be debated outside of universities, but in universities, which is meant to be the hub of knowledge, oh, we censor ourselves. What is this? I mean, how are we going to ensure that our graduates can become as competitive as the best in the world when we silence, censor them from actual issues, thoughts, and debates? That's why I believe that freedom of speech, expression is very important. We must incentivize that, learn how to agree to disagree, learn how to show compassion. It's perfectly fine for me to fight with you on ideas and ideals, but I don't necessarily have to punish you for disagreeing with me.
All right, thank you, YB. You know, in Parliament, you always seem to be very patient when speaking to other people. What is the best method for you to control your emotions in a debate or argument?
One is to not punch under the belt. If they punch under the belt and you go lower, you are bound to lose that debate because they are experts in punching below the belt. So when you go low, you go higher. I think that's a very important mindset to have. Secondly, learn how to not take things personally. You know, I mean, when people call me budak-budak, cucu, tak ada pengalaman, budak hingosan, if I take it personally, that will affect me. That's exactly what they want. Your enemies want you to be affected and demoralized. Why do I want to give them the benefit of reaching their goal and outcome to demoralize me? Instead, I'll punch higher, right? And they go low, you go higher. You engage with them intellectually, you rebut them, you deal with the issue well, and the public will judge ultimately. And that was exactly what happened, right? When in Parliament I was called choo-choo and all these kind of things. When I wanted to debate intellectually on having a windfall tax on the rich billionaires who profiteer excessively during times of COVID, they call all these kind of names. I redirected the debate on that, and when the public saw, and the public came out in support of the ideas, right, and the rejection on the politics of character assassination. So I think the public is smart enough, and it is my job as a member of parliament elected by the people to show a more progressive form of politics, and I will continue to do so.
All right, YB, you have so much experiences in speaking in front of a crowd. So how do you deal with, any fear or anxiety? Because students have this anxiety when speaking to people. They always feel like, oh, people are going to misjudge me. People are going to criticize me. So how do you deal with that sort of fear and anxiety?
It is normal to be fearful of criticism. It is normal to feel hurt when you're criticized. Embrace it. Don't ignore it. I mean, I embrace it through and through to the point that I try to understand where they're coming from and I don't take it personally. And because I don't take it personally, it doesn't affect my mental health. I mean, if you take it personally and you carry it wherever you go, you will be under immense stress all the time. Learn, understand where they're coming from, understand that it's perfectly normal to feel sad for this kind of attack, but keep on moving ahead, keep on walking forward. That's how I deal with it, because I have many different coping mechanisms, whether it's to play with Toby and Meow Meow, my cats, whether it's to watch a documentary on Netflix, whether it's to serve my constituents, because whenever I go on the ground, I really forget all the problems of the world because I'm focused on resolving the issues which are in front of me. I have many different coping mechanisms. All of us have it. Understand which one fits us, which one don't, and then keep on marching ahead.
All right, YB, are there any 3 of your favorite books that you would suggest to students or any in general?
A lot. So I'll give a combination of fiction and non-fiction. I'll start with fiction, because I'm usually not a fan of fiction, but I fell in love with Khaled Hosseini, brilliant writer. You must read The Kite Runner and A Thousand Splendid Suns. Usually people say the best is The Kite Runner, but if you ask me, I prefer A Thousand Splendid Suns. There's also the movie Kite Runner. Watch it. You will enjoy it. Watch the movie The Kite Runner before reading the book. But Thousand Splendid Suns, you must read the book. It is exceptional. For non-fiction, I love reading political books. For example, one, I think I have it behind me. Oh yeah, it's here. Two, which is quite recent. I finished reading it. One is, oh god, it's like Bernie Sanders, Our Revolution, Future We Believe In. It's very interesting because he successfully led a so-called intellectual revolution in America, and really focused on the politics of principles and ideas, which is very exciting and interesting. So I enjoy reading it. I also like reading this book, 50 Secrets, Singapore Success. Okay, I know when I show this, people think I'm a Singapore spy. I'm not. But I think we all have to learn from one another and to not be arrogant and ignorant. Just say, Malaysia is the best. I don't want to learn from anything else. We should learn. So these are two books which I recommend for you to read. Just behind me. Oh, there's one more which I like to recommend. I'm actually finishing reading this book. Slightly long, but okay, don't read the book. Just read the Wikipedia or like watch the movie. There's a movie. It's called The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Yeah. Chinese history, Chinese Empire history, but it teaches a lot about strategy. It's almost like it's a more complicated, complex version of Sun Tzu, The Art of War. If you read or watch The Art of War, you must read this as well. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Oh yeah, one more which I like to recommend. A Malaysian Hero. Read Robert Kwok memoirs. Robert Kwok's book. It's amazing. And you will be inspired to be a better Malaysian.
All right. I think that wraps up our interview session for today because we're approaching 9 p.m. But before we end this session, I'd like to kindly ask everyone to turn on their camera. I think everyone's been waiting for this, to take a screenshot of because in the Google form, people were saying like, oh, I'm just looking forward to take a screenshot. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are very, very impatient for this. So yeah, go ahead and turn on your camera, guys. You don't get this opportunity every day. So yeah, feel
I think
free.
we all have to switch on our camera, and like I think someone should like screenshot all of us. I think. Yeah. Okay. You okay?
Okay. Hold on, YB. A lot of them are still not turning on their cameras.
Oh, host disable the video. So I think you have to allow for them.
Oh, okay. One moment.
Yeah. Take your time. I just have one more online session at 9:30 after this. I have to like cepat-cepat makan.
Okay.
I'm not dressed well, so I apologize. I'm not wearing my suit. Actually, this is my baju sukan. Because immediately after this, I want to go for a quick jog. So, yeah.
I think everyone is almost ready. I'll give you guys another 1 minute. Okay. We have 3 sets here. Okay. On the count of 1, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. Okay, next page. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, next page. Okay, this is the last page. All right,
Okay.
1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. Before
Thank you
we
very
end,
much, everyone.
I'd like to thank YB again for taking the time to be with us today. It's really, really, I don't know what to say. I'm actually very nervous for today, but everything went well. And I think I really, truly want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. But before the session ends, I'd like to just chip in that MRA is recruiting. So like YB said previously, if you want to enhance your leadership skills, communication skills, this is the best platform. Maybe you can invite either member of parliament as well in the future. So go ahead on our Telegram and be sure to apply for the recruitment. We have another Norma Siswa session on the 31st of July. We're inviting Miss Ezati Hasbunwa. I think YB is a friend of hers as well.
Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing
amazing.
lady.
So she'll be talking
Yeah.
about scholarship opportunities and so much more, and what it's like to study in Ivy Leagues. And I really hope you guys will enjoy the upcoming session. But for today, thank you so much everyone for attending. Thank you so much once again, YB. Sorry for taking your time and sorry for the technical
No problem.
difficulties.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank
And
you,
send my
YB.
warmest
guys,
regards to the
don't forget
family.
to
Thank you so much, YB.
Thank you so much,
Bye,
YB.
everyone.
Talk.
Thomas, YB.
Bye.
Thank you, YB.
Thank you, YB.
Thank you, YB. Thank you, YB.
Thank you, YB.